I was taken aback by it, to be quite honest with you. When I saw what Sarah Spain had to say, it made me pause for a minute. And then I said, you know what? She's right. I am a father. I'm obviously an African American. And the reality is that one of the things that I lament repeatedly is this notion that there are black men out here in abundance that don't take care of their children. Sure, there's a few bums, a few punks, a few irresponsible individuals that put themselves before their own children. It happens to exist in the black race, just like it exists in the Latino race. And contrary to what a lot of Americans realize, there are white men who don't take care of their children either. So it's not discriminate towards the black community that we have deadbeat dads. But the fact of the matter is, by and large, most African American fathers out here do a phenomenal job of being active participants in their children's lives. They care very, very deeply about their children, and they go about the business of being responsible and providing for their families the way a father is supposed to. So when Sarah Spain steps up and says what she says, I think she has a very valid point, because I think that people, and to some degree, myself and others have been guilty of it, we're so quick to applaud the fact that he took care of his children and that he was a responsible father in terms of their upbringing, because we have a heightened level of sensitivity to the narrative that has been perpetrated out there about African-American fathers. And what I took from her, what Sarah Spain saying was, she's saying no. You know, the fact of the matter is, hold him accountable. And it makes perfect sense, because if we are indeed what I just articulated we are as fathers, why should we lower the bar, thereby heightening our level of admiration towards him, like what he's doing with his children is an aberration, and therefore he should be applauded? She's saying no. It should be treated as normal, because, again, you're giving yourself a bad rap as black fathers. I applaud Sarah Spain for what she said. She made a very, very valid point, and I never thought about it that way until she said it. But it makes sense.
Chris Rock has a bit about this in you know, I mean, what do you say? He's like, I take care of my kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids, right? Like, but what we're really talking about are the lasting reverberations of the institution of slavery, where families were split and sold. Human beings were sold and families were torn asunder, and there are lasting effects of that and other policies of our government and the subsequent kind of cultural influences and economic influences. Yeah, you're supposed to take care of your kids, duh, right, if you're a father. And I'll leave the whether or standards are too low for African-American fathers to African-American fathers. But I will say that I do feel that standards are too low for fathers, period. Like, fathers get a lot of credit for kind of sticking around, you know? Yeah. He was there. My father was around. Well, he was a great father.
Sometimes fathers don't get enough credit.
Oh, sure. By and large, though, I think that the standards are lower for fathers than for mothers.
Oh, that's true.
And we'd all be better off if that weren't the case.
Well, I would say this, though. I mean, we can say that, but at the same time, women are so wonderful. As a man that was raised by 5 women, the profound impact, because of the natural ability to nurture. You know, you can be a dad and you can be there. You can be an active, constant presence in the life of your children. But there's nothing on the planet that replaces a great mama. There's just nothing better. Okay, so, but there is a very, very potent role, a very significant role that a dad is supposed to play. And that's why when Sarah Spain said what she said, it really resonated. And I really have to applaud her, because she could not have said it any better. I mean, she was on around the horn, so you're making your point real quick, rapid fire, et cetera, et cetera. But what she said was incredibly profound and should be taken with the sincerity it deserves. I'm going to reiterate what I just said earlier. There, by and large, African-American fathers are doing the right things by their children. And a lot of times, because you have some situations where you're not with the mother, people interpret that as you not being the father that you're supposed to be, when that could not be further from the truth. And so as a result of it, it's very, very important to recognize the fact that by and large, you have African-American fathers out there that are doing what they're supposed to do, just like any other father from any other race.
The peg for this conversation, though, is LaVar Ball. So in other words, the idea is that, it seems to me, that LaVar Ball is rightly criticized by many for many of the things he said, but then people turn around and point to the fact that, well, look, Lonzo Ball seems like such a good kid. He hasn't gotten in any trouble, and even the way he plays basketball suggests that he tries to use whatever he's got to uplift those around him, and that's commendable and an admirable quality. And so someone must have instilled that in him, and he's so close to his dad that, look at the son that he raised. LaVar Ball can't be all bad, or, hey, shut up, everybody. He seems to know what he's doing. All three of his sons can play basketball, and by his own admission, maybe two would make it to the NBA and be players, and that if he were a white guy, he wouldn't be getting the same credit for it because the standards are not as low, it seems, right? Like that people turn around and say, well, he may be crude, but look, he's raised, well, you're supposed to raise your son. But I do think, and I think there's some truth to that, but I do think across the board, the standards for fathers are too low.
Yeah, well, I will say this, and I'll end it with this. What she said was right on point, very profound, like I said, but it is also important to piggyback off of your point. We have the narrative that has been put out there about African-American fathers. It's not put out there by fathers of any other race. So even though she's right, and I applaud what she had to say, from a societal perspective, maybe it's time that we take a look at the whole picture, as you pointed out, of fatherhood, as opposed to just dissecting the plight of the African-American father and the African-American household.
Not just that you have a job and you don't take off.
That's
right.
Also
how active a parent you are and what kind of a parent.
Of course, and regardless of the race, shout out to all the mothers that are playing both roles.
Well, we know that.